Hi, I'm Brian Wassom, head of the Emerging Media and Technology Industry Group here at Warner. And today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to talk about what could be the greatest step forward in productivity for lawyers and other professionals, the Apple Vision Pro. So before talking about how this new device can improve productivity, let's do a little bit of level setting and just talk about what the device is and how it works. So the Apple Vision Pro is the new headset offered by Apple, just came out in early February of 2024. And it represents a real step forward in the technology of augmented and virtual reality headsets. We're already starting to use some technical language there. So what does that actually mean? All it means is it's a computer on your face. And instead of visualizing data on two-dimensional screens, whether that's on a laptop or on your desktop, it takes your digital data and liberates it from those physical displays and puts it out into space where you can see it hanging in the air in front of you, and you can manipulate it not only with physical controls, but also with hand gestures and hand movements and even the tracking of your eyes. So let's take a closer look. This is a 1 terabyte hard drive that fits into a compact piece of machinery all within these goggles. It straps on to your head and you wear it just like this. It's a little bit weighty. It's got some substance to it. But what really makes it unique is it is lined with visual sensors. Sensors that are designed to pick up your hand movement, which allows you to control everything that you see, all the digital data that it's displaying to your eyes, with just very basic gestures of your hand. So unlike some of the more game-oriented headsets that you've seen from other companies, there are no controllers that come with this device. Everything is manipulated primarily by your hand gestures, by voice command, a couple buttons on here, and as we'll talk about in a second, physical keyboards if you choose to use those with them as well. Straps to your head, and it's tethered to pretty substantial and of course proprietary battery that comes with it. Now this clips to your belt, and you can wear it to the point where it's mobile and you can walk around with this clip to your belt. This battery has about a 2-hour lifespan to it. That said, if you're standing at a desk, you have the ability to plug it in with regular Apple USB-C cords, one end into this battery device, the other into a plug. And as long as you're standing stationary, plugged into the wall, you can use the device indefinitely, all day long like you would anything else. Of course, for the litigators out there, if you've ever taken a deposition, you probably had the experience of standing up without realizing that your lapel mic was still plugged in and getting it jerked back. You're going to do that once or twice with this as well until you remember to unplug from the wall if you walk away from your desk, but that's a growing pain. Now the fact that you can stay plugged in all day, that's actually important, because now instead of being a device you can wear for 2 hours at a time, it can have the capacity to be your all-day work computer. Now, is it capable enough and productive enough to replace your desktop or laptop in the office? I think it is. For one thing, it comes pre-populated with a number of the productivity suite software items that you already use. So the mail app that you're used to using on your phone, all of the Microsoft 365 applications, Microsoft Word, Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint, all of that built into the device on day one. So if you're used to using those programs, it's a pretty easy switch to port over into using them on the device. For the additional tools out there that you may not have access to immediately in the App Store for this device, well, That's where your laptop comes in. You think, well, why would I use a brand new device if I'm going to use a laptop as well? Well, it's because of how you get to use it. So I have here a MacBook Air. And the great thing about Apple is that everything in its ecosystem tends to work seamlessly with each other. So, for example, a pair of Apple AirPods will put all the audio from this device into your ears. If you have a Magic Keyboard and Magic Trackpad that work with Apple Silicon, these things will allow you to input data as you would with a trackpad or a keyboard wirelessly into this device. They just work. They just connect with each other, and if you are entering data into fine points or manipulating very small icons and you need a trackpad to do that, that's available, and it works seamlessly together with the hand gestures and the eye tracking to be a universe of input mechanisms for the device. Macintosh, though, works the same way. This Magic Keyboard is fantastic because not only does that work with the laptop, it works wirelessly with the devices that are the applications that are native onto the Vision Pro and anything else that you're using. You don't have to switch between keyboards. This doesn't have to be your Vision Pro keyboard and this your laptop keyboard. It works with all the devices. If you have a screen open in Space in this device, you can copy text from that, put it into the laptop application that you're using, if that's Word or on an internet browser or anything else. The way you interact with data on this thing is where the real magic happens. All you have to do when you're wearing this device is to look at the screen, click a button in virtual space, and this display here disappears and reappears in virtual space in front of you. Now, we haven't talked much about how you interact with any of these windows, but now this becomes just another one of those virtual windows that you're interacting with. Why is that important? Well, you're not limited to physical screen size or physical placement of your monitor. You can take individually each one of those screens, including the one that was previously here on your laptop screen, and you can manipulate it exactly how you want to. You can take the window and make it bigger, make it smaller. You can just with your fingers grab the window, push it farther away from you and make it enormous to the size of your wall. You can make it smaller and right up in front of your face so that you can see it crystal clear. Any number of windows you can have open. You're not limited by the number of displays anymore. You can have windows in space all around you, positioned wherever you want them to be. Whether that's even in another room, you can position it. If you want to have the sports scores over the water cooler, but you only want to limit yourself to checking those scores when you get up to go get a drink of water, you can do that. So what's the experience like of using this device? What makes it unique and special? Well, you really need to experience it in order to truly appreciate it. Everyone that I have given a chance to play with this device says just the first-hand experience of using it is so much more impactful than what they've seen on TV. But I can do my best to describe it. Now, you may have seen on the commercials, they always use this head strap because, frankly, this looks better and it's comfortable. But it also ships with this two-piece head strap that goes over the top. I really recommend using this because it distributes the weight a little better. One complaint that you might hear folks mention is that this device, as compact and as technologically advanced as it is, it's got some substance to it. It's a little weighty and it can tend to feel a little bit heavy on your face. So this strap above and behind helps balance that weight a little bit. So it's a little tricky to get on, but once you put it on, it's fine. It'll orient real quick to the position of your eyeballs. And then now I'm seeing through this device. In fact, the first thing that pops up in space right in front of me, which you can't see, is a dialogue that asks me to enter my passcode. Security device, just like you would enter your passcode on your iPhone or your iPad. And so in order to enter those numbers, it's tracking my eye movements. I don't have to move my head around. It's tracking the motion of my eyes to look at the different numbers on the passcode pad. So I'm going to look at the numbers and click my fingers together at the numbers I'm looking at, and now I've entered my code. That's gone away, and now I see through this, through video pass-through technology, exactly as if I weren't wearing them at all. So the video quality is as immediate and crisp as it needs to be to make me feel like I'm not looking at video at all. I'm actually looking through this, seeing as I normally would. So I can pick up and walk away, if I'm not plugged in, down the hallway, talk to somebody, go to the kitchenette, whatever I need to do within the office space, without really even ever needing to take this off my face. But while I'm sitting at my desk and I'm doing some work, there's a number of options. The default is to press this little crown right here, which is just like the digital crown on your watch, if you're familiar with the Apple Watch. And by doing so, I see a number of icons that pop up into space. Again, I can see through them and see you, but to me, it's a very crisp display of icons that show the available programs to use. And if I want to slide from page to page, looking for the icon that I want, I just need to grab and slide. Grab and slide. And now I'm sifting through screens exactly as if I was using my finger to slip through screens on an iPad or an iPhone screen. I find the application that I want, for example, I'm going to open up Zoom because I want to participate in a Zoom call. I do that to click the button while I'm looking at it with my eyes. I'll tell you, this takes a little bit of discipline because it's not uncommon for us to look at things other than what we're clicking on because we know where it is. So you need to train your eye to look at the thing that you need to select in order to select it. Same thing with those of us who talk with our hands. If we're used to gesturing with our hands in a way that might confuse the machine, we might need to be a little bit more disciplined on where those fingers are going. But I've opened up Zoom now, and so I can look around the room. I've got the window open right here, and I can make that window as big as I want just by pulling down the corner. Let's say I want to take this window and push it back against the physical window in this office room where I'm at. Now I see a display of my Zoom call as large as the wall of the room itself. And I'll tell you, sitting back and looking at video that size, it's a lot easier to do than peering at the little boxes on your computer, especially if you're in for a long call. So I can do that and participate in that. One of the interesting technologies that you may have seen me talk about before when it comes to participating in a Zoom on this device is what's called the persona. It's a digital avatar that recreates the movements of your face. And that's specifically for applications like video conferencing, whether that's Zoom or Teams, which also comes pre-populated on the device. It will track the movements of my face and my eyes, all of which it's tracking in real time, and recreate that as a AI-generated avatar. I will tell you that the reaction so far in the Zoom calls in which I've done that has universally been that, well, that's a little creepy. But it'll take some getting used to, and we've spoken in other contexts about, well, what happens when we get used to interactions like that? That's a different question. But suffice to say, it works, and it gets the job done. What else can I do? Well, I can go right back to my menu. Now that I've got Zoom open over here, let's choose Microsoft Word. Oh, look at that. It's up here where I left it. So I'm going to take that, grab it, put it right over here. Because I want to keep it open just to compare a Word document that I might want to grab later. Let's go back to the menu and choose Outlook. Put that right in front of me because I want to check my emails. That's what I want to do first. So here, again, I have this window right here. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Now I have this right in front of my face. I can work with it. I can use keyboard to interact with that if I want to do that. And when I'm done with it, I can move it off to the side. Now I'm ready to use this Word document, and I can interact with that as well. Now there is a virtual keyboard that pops up that I can use my fingers for. It's not as efficient for long documents. That's why you might want a physical trackpad or a physical keyboard. But the interaction with your laptop is really special. So there are software applications that aren't available yet in Apple Vision Pro environment, which runs not only apps that are built natively for the Vision Pro, but also apps that are made for an iPad that are compatible with it. And that, for example, includes the software that I use to enter my time on a daily basis. So as a lawyer, you can appreciate having that available to you at a moment's glance. But there are still some programs, not many really, but some. For example, Microsoft Word, the version that comes pre-built, the cloud-based 365 version that comes pre-built into the Vision Pro, it has limited capacity. The interaction on that isn't what I'm used to on my laptop screen. If I run the same application from 365 on my laptop, I get more functionality, more buttons, and the layout is more to my liking. So I would prefer to use that version of this program. So all I need to do is to look at it and click a button. Sometimes it'll ask me to do it automatically, but I'll ask it to virtualize this screen. And now what I've done is I've took the display off this screen and put it up in space in front of me, right alongside all the other spatial apps that I'm using. Now that screen is available to me. I can type on my keyboard. I can use my physical trackpad and interact with this data just as if I would on this physical screen, except now it's in space and I can position it, enlarge it, do whatever else I'd like to do with it. So here I am in a workspace environment that I get to design on the fly, position things where I want, when I want them to be there. I can drag and reposition depending on what document it is I want to work on. I can cut and paste from virtual applications to laptop applications and vice versa. My email, my word processing, my timekeeping, my internet browsing, in addition to 1,000 other apps that I might want to use at any particular given point in time, are all available to me floating in space wherever and whenever I want them to be there. So you might be saying, what's there to prevent me from signing up right now? That sounds magical, which it really is. Again, you've got to try it before you make a decision. But there are downsides, and they're significant at this point, certainly worth taking into consideration. The first is that, hey, this is a first generation product. There are some of the limitations that I mentioned in terms of software functionality or even how you interact with it. You can't even take icons and put them into folders the way that you're used to on an iPad yet, because it's a first generation product. They needed to show you what it could do, and as people use it, it'll get more refined. The user interface would get more refined. Frankly, I'd love to see a user interface where you can interact with digital documents as if they were documents going into a real manila folder, instead of taking a screen and making it just a bigger screen. The big screen's fantastic as it is, but I think people will continue to get more creative with the user interface as things go on. There are a number of really cool three-dimensional productivity tools out there, mind mapping tools that put clouds all around you into a three-dimensional whiteboard. There are presentation apps like Keynote or PowerPoint where you can physically grab a three-dimensional piece of art out of the slide into real life and manipulate it with your hands. So all sorts of really unique functionality that you can't get in any other medium, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Back to downsides. I mentioned the weight. It can be uncomfortable for some folks. For me, I love devices like this and it doesn't bother me, but And this strap comes into play in terms of balancing that weight, but even still, some folks, it gets a little heavy after a period of time. So would they want to use this all day long as a work computer? Now that remains to be seen. Looking through a screen, as sharp as it is, sometimes people get eye strain. Point being, not every form function is going to be the best option for every person. And let's not forget the cost. You probably, if you've read anything or heard anything about this device, that's the first thing they mention, is just how darn expensive this thing is. And of course, the price that you hear is the starting price at 256 gigs of storage. I mentioned that this one is a terabyte, which is the largest that's available. I mentioned it comes with one battery. If you want a backup battery, if you want these magic periphery items, if you're like me and you've always used a Windows system and just got a MacBook, well then that's another piece of equipment that you're paying for. Other accessories that you'd want, each of that adds up. So it's not a cheap tool, but it is a tool. And the fact that it is productive makes it worth considering, because it's so much more than the entertainment device or the toy that you might have otherwise associated it with being. Of course, no lawyer video would be complete without a few thoughts on the legal implications of the device that we're discussing. There aren't any stark ones, but there are a few to consider that might come into play if you're going to start using this in the work environment. The first is accommodation of employees. As I mentioned, it can be uncomfortable for some people. If you're in a workplace environment that mandates use of devices like this, well, you might get some pushback from particular employees who aren't particularly well suited to a device like this. That said, there are also employees for whom this could be a brilliant accommodation device. There's already been publicity on folks who have vision impairments, people who are legally blind, who can put this on and see things in such crisp clarity and so close up to them that now they're more functional. Now they have more options available to them because of a device like this. From an IT perspective and managing your internal workflows and capacity and device management, it can present some headaches if, like my environment, you are a Windows only shop. So as I mentioned, it works well with MacBooks, not so much with other devices. It is very much a component of the Apple ecosystem. So if you're wearing an Apple Watch, using an iPhone, using a MacBook Air, they work together seamlessly. It will not interact with a Windows device. And the software that you run, if it runs only in a Windows or Linux environment, it may or may not be something that you can use on this device. So goes to say this may or may not be the time for you to jump into an experience like this. But it is definitely moving the entire industry forward. Already, we see so much attention given to competitor companies and competitor devices that are competing on price, that are competing on Windows functionality. And we really see, because of just the impressive capabilities of this device, the entire category being moved forward. So whether it's an Apple Vision Pro or a competitor from Microsoft or Meta or any of the other number of companies that are working on similar devices, the odds are that within the next 3 to 5 years, you'll see a lot of people in your workplace wearing a device like this on their face and moving their hands around in empty space to interact with their data instead of standing in front of a desk, typing on a keyboard, looking at a set of monitors. Are you ready for that transition? Well, we are here in the Emerging Media and Tech group at Warner, and any consultation that you could use, even if it's just beyond legal advice, but just some strategic insight as to what a workplace like that would look like, how productive it could be, and how you could maximize your workflows using devices like this. We're ready to help. Give us a call. Thank you. Have a great day.